Distance learning.
Hi, we are going to dive this week into adjustment layers, right? So just like pixel layers, there are going to be things that we want to name properly, organize properly, have, all of our ducks in a row. Why do you have ducks? I don't know. But if you have ducks, put them in a row, right? Ducks in a circle? No. Ducks in a stack? What the hell is that? No. In a row. Only way that you should have ducks. Things gone. Okay, so just to review what we're going through today, here's our lovely website. We'll review some of the stuff in the live portion of the evening. Remember to retouch on a blank layer. If you're doing pixel masking layers, you shouldn't be doing masking yet. You can fool me by applying a mask, but otherwise don't do it. Remember that JPEG image quality doesn't affect your pixel count, right? That was in the write-up. And remember to convert color spaces instead of assigning color spaces. I will go over all of that and probably some other things in the live bit. But there you go. Okay. I am going to, I have it listed here on the website to do that first. So project 1 is due next week. So I was going to go over how to size stuff for print. And that's one thing I'm going to do. The second thing we're going to do is go over pixel and adjustment layers sort of conceptually. And then we'll go through how to actually do some adjustment layering using levels and possibly curves, depending on how things go. So let's go ahead and dive into what the website says. The sizing stuff for print. So in your Week 3 demo files, you have a bunch of things, and I'm going to go down here and grab one of the printing layout demo files. I'm going to grab number 1. I'm going to open it just by dragging it down to my little Photoshop icon, and that will pop it up. Again, general housekeeping, right? Remember, if your Photoshop is looking wacky, you can always go to Workspace and select a particular workspace. If your workspace is still wacky, you can always reset it. And of course, you can save whatever configuration you want as a new workspace. All right, I'm going to hit F on the keyboard to get myself into this nice full screen mode. So here we have a picture. I would like to print this picture. Why? Because it's beautiful, taken by a genius. So right now it is a set of pixels on a screen, right? And as a set of pixels on a screen, it has no fixed dimension. Right? If I zoom in, it gets bigger. If I zoom out, it gets littler. Right? Now it's like an inch wide, and now it's like the entirety of my laptop screen. So when you are working on a screen, zooming in, zooming out doesn't really matter. Right? The size of something is quite literally immaterial. But when we print, right, it's stuck on a piece of paper. Right? You can't zoom in and out on a piece of paper, even though I, and I'm sure you, have tried doing that on a magazine. So in order to print it on a piece of paper, we need to make sure that the file is the right size for that piece of paper. First thing we need to do is figure out, okay, well, what size do I want it to be? So I'm looking over here at my handout 5B, and it's going to walk through sizing something to go on 13 by 19 inch paper. The same strategy applies for whatever size paper you want to print on, right? Same rules apply for whatever size margins you want to have around it, right? If I want to print on 20 by 30 with a 5-inch margin, same rules. If I want to print on 8.5 by 11 with a 1/4-inch margin, same rule, same strategy. So let's go ahead and I'm going to print this on 13 by 19. First thing I need to do is figure out, all right, well, how big is my image going to physically be? I took that handout away too soon. There we go. So if I have a 13-inch wide piece of paper and I have a 1-inch margin on either side, that's 13 minus 1 inch on one side, right? So 13 down to 12, minus 1 inch on the other side, 12 down to 11. So 11 inches across, right? 11, 12, 13. 1-inch margin top and bottom. Cool. So that means that my top margin 1 inch, bottom margin 1 inch, so 19 inches minus 1, that's 18, 19 inches minus 2, 18, 17. Right, so 17 inches is how high my image will be, 11 inches is how wide my image will be, right? Those are maximums if I want to have at least a 1-inch margin on 13 by 19 paper. Okay, so cool, we figured that out. So let's go ahead and set our image to be that size. I'm going to go ahead and go to image size. That's Command Option I, or of course you can get to it from the image menu right there, image size. Note right underneath it, canvas size. We'll use that in a sec. So image size, and I want to set it to inches, right? That's what I'm just measuring. I don't know, pixels from Atom. So I'm going to go here and set it to inches. Awesome. And then I want to set it to 13 by 19 minus those two, so 11 by 17. Now, right now, my resample box is checked. So right now, if I change the size, right, it's going to keep my resolution set to whatever it is and just throw away or make up pixels, right? Which is it going to do? I don't know. Doesn't matter. We want to not do that. So I'm going to uncheck resample. So I'm going to first try my width, 11, and I see that when I set my width to 11, my height is only 15. Okay, so I'll have an inch on either side, and I'll have more top and bottom. That's fine, right? That is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. You'll also notice that my resolution went up, right? So before, I'm going to hit cancel, go back to image size, inches. Originally it was at 72 pixels per inch, and it was some silly big size, 30 inches by 40 inches. So when I shrunk the size down, right, because I unchecked resample, I shrunk the size down. All it did was pack those pixels closer and closer together. And if I have packed them closer together, there are more of them in every inch. So the number of pixels per inch goes up. So right now it was 72 pixels per inch. When I make it 11 inches wide, it is up to 199 pixels per inch. That's good. So one of the things that's important to know is, all right, if I want to print something, what is the sort of minimum resolution that I can get away with, right? Resolution is a measurement of image density. So we're at 199. Is that enough to make a good print? Yes, that is fine. So what we want to look for when we're doing this is it at least 180, right? If it's more than 180, you're probably fine, right? If it's more than 300, you're totally fine. If it's more than 360, you know, that's great, but you can't really like see that much detail with your eyeball. If I wanted to, let's just hypothetically say, okay, well, what if I wanted to print it 16 inches wide? Could I do that? Well, I look down here at resolution, right? So it's stretched my image out to be 16 inches wide, right? The height now is 21 inches high. And those pixels have pulled apart a little bit because I'm not making up any pixels, right? Not resampling. So they're spaced out a little bit more. The resolution has dropped down to 137. That is too low to make a good quality print. So I can't print it 16 by 20, but I am perfectly fine printing it at 11 by 17. So that seems good. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Now, nothing changes on my image, right? Like, doesn't get bigger, doesn't get smaller. Why is that, right? We're like, oh, well, I changed the size. Yeah, but you didn't change the number of pixels, right? And so if the number of pixels doesn't change, your image still has the same amount of data, and it's going to look the same on your screen no matter what. Just to prove it to you, I'm going to, remember, resample is not checked. I'm going to make it 250 inches wide and hit OK. And it looks the dang same, right? Why does it look the same? How many pixels does it have? 2196 by 3000, same as it had before. All right, go back to 11 by 15. Okay, so we're cool. If, by the way, you did want it to go exactly to 11 by 17, what you would need to do would be to crop it to that proportion. Right now, it is a rectangle that is narrower than that proportion of 11 by 17. We could go here to the crop tool, set our ratio to 11 by 17, and come in here and draw a crop box, Command minus, shrink the view. All right, but what that means is that we are going to end up cutting off part of our image. Right, in order to make it that proportion, we would have to, excuse me, sacrifice part of the image. I don't want to do that, so we're just going to keep it right here at 11 by 15. That will be fine. Just be a little bit more space top and bottom. So let's see what it looks like so we can evaluate that. So now we're going to go to canvas size. So to go to canvas size, what we want to do is instead of Command Option I, we can do Command Option C, or we can just come up here to Image, Canvas Size, and excuse me, if image size is what your picture, how big your picture is, canvas size is how big the sheet of paper it's printed on is. All right, so changing my canvas size, I'm going to go ahead and set it to 13 by 19. And so what I'm saying is like, okay, my image, don't change it, right? Don't scale my image at all. But, right, the paper that it's sitting on, the sort of virtual canvas that it is sitting on, let's make that my sheet size. Let's make that 13 by 19. That sounds good. We don't want it to be relative. Relative is, if I want to make it 1 inch wider or 1 inch taller, I could put in relative and say, okay, 1 inch higher and 1 inch wider, right? That's not what we want. We want to set it to the size of the paper we are using. So 13 by 19. We want to expand out evenly from the center because we want our image centered on the paper, and canvas extension color, we would like that to be white. Boom. All right. So now you know what your image will look like when it's printed out on that piece of paper. You can print it, there's enough space around it that nothing needs to get resized by your printer, nothing will get cut off at the printer. You can tell them, hey, don't resize it, print it exactly at the size that I have told you. The only thing that will get cut off is white, and since the paper's white, right, it will look exactly the same. That's what we want to do when we make a print. So that's sizing for print, right? Set your image size to whatever your picture wants to be, set your canvas size to whatever your piece of paper is. That will give you an idea of exactly what your print will look like, and allow you to see, like, okay, what do the margins look like, et cetera, et cetera. If, by the way, you wanted even margins on this and you didn't want to crop your image, you could just go in afterwards and trim it, right? We have extra top and bottom, trim those off, get a nice solid inch all the way around. Okay, so that is sizing for print. You'll need to do something like that for actually a bunch of assignments this year. Keep in mind, all you need to know is how big your paper is going to be, how big your margins are going to be. That'll allow you to figure out the size of your image, right? Once you do that, you can make your image that size in Photoshop, make your canvas the size of your piece of paper, and you'll know exactly what it is that your picture will look like once you print it.